Administrator, for some of the rulemaking, the FAA has been taking a policy guidance document approach as opposed to a rulemaking process. As rulemaking and regulatory actions are more institutionalized, is there a consideration of making policy guidance documents into rules or regulations? Should this committee be concerned, in other words, about the flexibility of policy guidance documents and whether they're going to be around in the future versus taking a rulemaking process that will institutionalize the direction?
Well, thank you for the question, Chair Larsen. And the reason that we're using policy memos and other methods here is that in some cases it allows us to make changes in a more expedient manner and allow us to implement the provisions of the certification reform bill in a timely fashion in accordance with the timelines that are prescribed. I'll use Section 107 as an example. There are several requirements in that section about the appointment and oversight of ODA unit members, which we know is extremely important. And it requires FAA approval for their appointment and also the appointment of FAA advisors for those unit members. In order to have these policies in place as required in January of 2022, we issued a policy memo on unit member appointment and a policy memo on FAA advisors. But the next revision of the ODA order will then roll these policy memos into that document, but that takes a longer amount of time to run through the formal clearance process. So the use of the policy memos and other activities, voluntary SMS is another example, is as either rulemaking or the development of orders occurs, that takes time, but we have ways to accomplish the substance of what the Congress directed and what we need to do, frankly, as a result of all the reviews and investigations that have been accomplished over the last couple of years.
Can you quickly, can you quickly explain then how the FAA plans to enforce those policy memos versus being able to enforce a rule or regulation?
Well, again, the policy memos pertain to our internal processes. So they have full force and effect within the agency. Those are not full rulemaking. So we will enforce those, but we want to, as you said, we want to make sure they are fully institutionalized and that they are in place for years and decades to come. And that's why we will incorporate them into our orders as we go forward.
One of the discussions and issues we dealt with during the bill creation was type certificates, and I think what formally is called the new product rule. I think I made a note to myself to call it a stale type certificate. The 737 type cert was nearly 50 years old when the FAA amended it to add the 737 MAX 8. But the bill requires you all to consider whether there's a point at which FAA needs to deliver or to declare that a type cert is too old, or to amend a new derivative and require the manufacturer to apply for a new type certificate. Have you begun that assessment yet? If you have, when will you complete it? If you haven't, when will you begin?
Well, the short answer, Chair Larsen, is yes. As you know, we recommendations and congressional direction to do several things. One of them was an independent study and some recommendations on type certification reform, and also issue new rules and guidance as necessary to execute on type certificates. This all falls under the broad umbrella of what we call the changed product rule. And that is harmonized with the other states of design internationally. So there's not only an FAA work that needs to be done, but as we do that, it has to be done in coordination with international authorities to make sure that certifying and validating authorities are having the same approach around the world. So with respect to the study, we have already tasked MITRE to complete the study. And in the meantime, we are conducting an internal review of the applicable rules and also working with our international partners. We have chartered and actually the International Authority Change Product Rule Working Group began to meet this summer, had their first meeting in July, and they're meeting on a regular basis. That team's work to date has focused on identifying gaps and lessons learned to formulate specific recommendations for improvement. They will give us their report and recommendations by the middle of next year, and then we'll have consistency around the international community.
Thank